Hey y'all, welcome back to the SharionSade. Well, I was gonna say SharionSade podcast, like I'm recording the podcast. Welcome back to my channel. Thank y'all so much for joining. I know we just had a live stream, but I thought it would be fun to have another one. Can y'all confirm that you can hear me okay? Oh, everybody's here. Hey, Church Nelly. Hey, Ingrid Soares. Kay Castillo. Joan Garcia. Lottie. Joyce Vos. Carol Lund. Tara Lovette. Let me scroll back up. I don't want to miss anybody. The early crew. Gwen Daniel. Hey. I don't know how I scrolled. Okay. All right. Tara Lovette said we can hear you. And Carol Lund said we can hear you. Okay, perfect. Thank y'all so much for confirming. Let me move my chair over. All right. So as you can see how my sources below are worked out, I plan to talk about completely different things today. I did not plan on talking about the new updates that we got within the last, 17, 18 hours. So I'm going to prioritize the new information, and we're going to make this a part 1 and a part 2. So the part 1 is going to be the most current information. And then in part 2, we're finally going to get to some of those topics I've been meaning to chat about. So we will get there. If you haven't already, please don't forget to go ahead and like this video or this live stream. And please don't forget to subscribe. As you can see, it's Friday. So I said, I'm going to do a nice little relaxed bun. This is my around the house bun. When my hair isn't curly, it's the only thing that keeps my hair out of my face. And I have both my schnauzers running around like crazy. So I said, I don't have time to fool with my hair today. So today we're going to be talking about a couple of topics. First, Sentebale released a compilation video of part of Prince Harry's visit, and I want to share that today. We're also going to be talking about International Day of the Girl, and we're going to be talking about World Mental Health Day. Now, today is actually International Day of the Girl, and yesterday was World Mental Health Day. Oh, thank you so much, Mina Ruth. Hello to you too. Oh, hey, TCC Sun, Callie Young, Monticello, Beatrice and Dylan, thank y'all so much for joining. But yeah, today is actually International Day of the Girl, and that's been recognized since 2012. And World Mental Health Day was yesterday. And so we didn't have a live stream yesterday, but we will get caught up. So thank y'all so much for watching and joining. I hope you enjoyed today's live stream. And we're going to start with segment 1. And for those of you who are new, the way this works for me is I do a segment, which kind of gets the information all out there about the topic and summarizes it. And then afterwards, we read your comments and have a discussion. So while the segment is going, feel free to participate in the live chat, and then I'll talk to you about your comments when I get back. Thanks so much for watching, and let's get started. Thanks again to Sentebale for sharing that incredible compilation video of Prince Harry's trip. And that can be found on their Instagram at instagram.com/Sentebale, where you can find a lot of other amazing resources, photos, videos, etc. of the organization doing the incredible work that they do. But I also want to point out, if you own a business or you work for a company that likes to get involved in really good causes, Sentebale is open to partnerships as well as donations. You can also get involved with the Sentebale Polo Cup, or the Royal Salute Polo Challenge. Or if your company wants to just get involved and participate in a good cause with a good mission, feel free to start here at sentebale.org and go to Get Involved. And they have a lot of different options, as well as how your company, you or a group, etc., can get involved and participate in change for good. So I really like that video. Now you can watch the original video with the original music on Sentebale's Instagram, but I thought that was such a nice video. We got a couple of videos lately, and we're going to show the other ones as well, but we got a couple of videos. I said they are absolutely keeping us in the loop. We got pictures, we got write-ups, we got videos. They've been making sure we stay busy, and I'm pretty sure we've all been too busy, or at least we should have been too busy paying attention to the good information that's been coming out, so that we don't even acknowledge the nonsense. because there is most definitely some nonsense out there. I know y'all have seen it and we won't waste our time on that today. But what did y'all think of the video? I really did enjoy it. I thought it was so nice. And the original music, I can't use the music because it's copyrighted or copywritten. I don't know. But it's copyright protected. So I had to replace the music. But if you want to see the whole video and the music as well, it's on their Instagram of Sentebale. Oh wow, everybody's coming in. Okay, good. Welcome. Hey, Joyce Votes. Joyce Votes says, I'm so happy for Harry and Meghan, what they are doing. I agree. They have been knocking out so much, and it's such a wide span of topics and hot button issues. I just don't understand how they have the time. They must have an incredible team around them, and they are all also both very dedicated individuals. So I'm not surprised, but I absolutely am impressed. All right, so go ahead and leave me your comments about that first segment. We're going to go ahead and move on to the second segment. Happy International Day of the Girl. As you know, since 2012, October 11th has been recognized by the UN as the International Day of the Girl, where we promote empowerment and resources for women and young girls globally. Now, before we get to this amazing article pinned for UN Women, I actually want to share how Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, and the Archewell Foundation, as well as a few other partners, celebrated International Day of the Girl. We're going to start once again with the update directly from Archewell Foundation. Now you can find this on archewell.org if you like, or you can go directly to sussex.com and click the Archewell Foundation website link. The title of this update is Championing Young Girls. Let me see if y'all can spot Meghan before we proceed. Y'all see her? 3, 2, 1. Here she is. Hey, Meg. Okay, let's get started. In celebration of International Day of the Girl, the Archewell Foundation, Pivotal Ventures, and the Oprah Winfrey Charitable Foundation announced their contributions to support a partnership between Girls Inc. and Half the Story, aimed at providing digital wellness programming for young girls in underserved communities across America. This new educational initiative will equip girls with the essential tools to thrive in the digital age while fostering healthier, more balanced relationships with technology. And this is important for a million reasons. However, we're going to have a discussion later about Prince Harry's contribution to World Mental Health Day, where this topic actually comes up. And I love how they're so aligned, but this is very timely. Let's continue. Hashtag Half the Story's strength-based program will address key issues such as body image, friendships, healthy digital habits, and safety from sexual predators. Programming will emphasize online safety education, responsible social media engagement, and mental health support, equipping girls with the tools to navigate their environment confidently and resiliently. Ahead of the announcement, Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, visited Girls Inc. of Greater Santa Barbara to speak with girls about their experience growing up in the digital age. The organization serves over 100,000 across the U.S. every year and has been a partner of the Archewell Foundation since 2021. Many of you may recall we've talked about Girls Inc. on the channel before. So in April of 2021, Meghan convened a roundtable with Girls Inc., but also with National Women's Law Center, and it was to elevate adolescent women's voices and promote female leadership. At the roundtable, the young women reflected on the struggles brought by COVID-19 and shared their plans for the future. The Duchess also discussed the impact of various trailblazing women throughout history, asking the girls to share their own role models. And the roundtable actually consisted mostly of girls of color who were part of Girls Inc. affiliates across the U.S. Now, Girls Inc. actually released a statement saying, quote, Girls Inc. is proud to have participated in a roundtable with the Duchess of Sussex and the Archewell Foundation, along with the National Women's Law Center, that elevated the voices and experiences of girls. We believe girls are innately powerful and the leaders our future needs. We were honored to have Girls Inc. girls join the Duchess of Sussex in discussion about the issues that most affect them and the ways in which we can work together to drive social change and create a more compassionate and equitable world. We are grateful to have the Duchess as a champion and advocate for girls and women. Now, again, that was released by one of the leaders of Girls Inc., and her name is Stephanie J. Hull. The Archewell Foundation is committed to uplifting girls around the world and protecting their safety and wellness in online spaces. As we work towards digital well-being for all, we will continue to listen to young people and ensure that they have the tools they need to thrive. Now, before we get to the pictures, I also want to share just a small portion of the UN Women write-up for International Day of the Girl, because they shared some incredible statistics. Once again, this can be found on the UN Women website, which is unwomen.org. As many of you know, for a few years, I was a member of UN Women. However, they've restructured membership, so I'm no longer a member, and now I'm a supporter. However, in order to be a member, quote unquote, and kind of do the same functions, you actually have to be employed with them now. So they did a little restructuring, but I am still a supporter, and I do still have access to all of the good information and features, and I am still able to participate in their events, which is cool. However, I wanted to point that out for anyone who wants to get involved. I know it can be a little confusing as to the restructuring of memberships, but if you go to the Get Involved portion of their website, you can find many opportunities to have your voice heard and put your effort towards something good. Now, this is the write-up that they published for International Day of the Girls, and it's titled Girls' Rights and Vision for the Future. Now, they have a lot of amazing information here, so please, if you have the time, use the link in the description box below to go read it and get involved in the ways that you can. Some of those ways don't even involve spending any money or leaving your house. And so I highly recommend getting involved, at least dedicate an hour or two if you have it to doing something great. And this is a wonderful place to start. On the International Day of the Girl, UN Women joins efforts with girls worldwide and everyone who cares about their rights to support girls' vision for the future. The theme of this year's International Day of the Girl is, quote, Girls, Vision for the Future. The findings from UNICEF research show that girls are not only courageous in the face of challenges, but hopeful for the future. Today and every day is an opportunity for the world to get behind their vision, invest to build an equal and better future. But I wanted to share these statistics, key facts on girls' rights. Today, 119.3 million girls are out of school, down by only 4.3% since 2015. So we have seen a decline there. However, not nearly enough. More must be done. The next statistic is 1 in 4. By the time they are 19 years old, 1 in 4 adolescent girls have experienced abuse by a partner. That's terrible. First of all, listen to that statistic. 1 in 4 at any age range is awful. It's insane. That's not okay. However, 1 in 4 by the time they're 19. Now, I wanted to focus on this because that is an extremely pivotal age range. You're still essentially a child. Your brain isn't even fully developed at that point. So meaning the experiences you have here are extremely pivotal into who you will become. They're foundational. And it's important because, one, no one should be facing abuse, especially by a partner. However, it's extremely important to me because a lot of the memories you make in that time frame in your life become core memories. They contribute to who you become as an adult, how you face the world, and what's in your arsenal to face the world and challenges. And if you're already facing it with a deficit in that way, and harm done to you, it's going to be harder for you to show up. It's kind of like the analogy that I've shared before about how people with a strong support system and a healthy childhood show up with a half full basket at the grocery store. So when they're accumulating things that they need to thrive in life, their basket is already half full. That means the resources they showed up with already go at least twice as far, meaning they're already further ahead than someone who showed up with an empty basket and with fewer resources to contribute to their well-being. So as both of these people are entering the grocery store to fill their basket, one of these people have more resources, have to use less resources because their basket is already half full. And those are the things that we are given in childhood and adolescence by healthy family dynamics and people who contribute to our well-being and build our foundation on solid ground. Whereas a person who shows up with an empty basket not only has to do the foundational part, but they have a lot of unlearning to do. And the things that are already in their basket, if it isn't already empty, are things that don't contribute to their health and well-being. So they are in the business of taking things out, which takes work, and then putting healthy things back in, and then accumulating resources to acquire more when they have less. So it's just a quick analogy to show how people who have a really safe and healthy upbringing get to experience life and thrive in life, whereas people who show up in the world and they haven't had a great upbringing or they haven't had a lot of core foundation built for them or they haven't had as much access, or they have fewer resources, have a lot more work to do, triple the amount of work to do than the people who show up in a healthy environment. And so it's just important to remember that that time in your life is foundational, or that time in a child's life is foundational. And if you are in any child's village, or in the village of any family, try to contribute in a positive way and protect kids. And the last statistic that I want to share is 9 million girls will be married as children by 2030. As you know, it is only 2024. That statistic is way too high because it should be 0. No child, mind you, children do not have the ability to consent. No child should have to be married. That's awful, and that shouldn't even be something that's allowed globally. So more must be done to protect children and girls, and especially vulnerable parties. And we can all contribute by just starting to inform ourselves. So I want you to start here, if you can, unwomen.org. And this is a feature story, and getting involved where you can to protect women and girls, especially on International Day of the Girl. I want to end this by saying thank you, Meghan, for all the amazing things that you do to protect women and empower women and offer resources to women. And thank you to everyone who cares about women and girls. If you are not a woman or a girl, that shouldn't stop you from supporting the rights that we should all have access to, our rights, our God-given rights to exist in this world free from harm. They look like they had a good time. That was such a surprise when I saw that update go up. I was like, oh, wow. I knew she would do something for International Day of the Girl, but I absolutely didn't think we were going to get a video, especially right after the World Mental Health Day video. So it was really nice to see how she celebrated, and also revisit with Girl Inc. We've talked about them before, and it looks like they are still working together, but we're not surprised because they do. R12 Foundation, Harry and Meghan, both individually and together, do a great job of maintaining their relationships and growing them in a positive direction. So I'm not surprised that we saw some of the same organizations several times throughout the years, because they definitely keep those lines of communication open. So I want to jump over to some of you guys' comments. Let me turn on some music. It got quiet, didn't it? Let's turn on some music. Okay, there we go. First comment. Hey, Leo Brown. It's always great to see you. Live. Hi, Lottie. Lottie said, Meghan looked so pretty yesterday. I just love her. Yes, she did look beautiful. And I'm not even going to front. I am definitely doing a Sussex style for that video. I mean, for that outfit. She looked great. I love even her hair and the high collar and how it all worked. The big belt. I love that thick belt. We rarely see her wear belts that thick. I loved it. I thought it was perfect, especially with the height of the pants. It all worked so well. So we will definitely be talking about that outfit. We must. It would be a crime not to. Hi, Gwendolyn Daniel. Gwendolyn Daniel says Meghan and Harry do the work. They absolutely do, which is a testament to why these organizations, these partnerships, and these initiatives are so freaking successful. They invest the time. Here's the thing. You can have all the resources in the world. You can have all the help in the world. But if you really aren't passionate about something, and if you aren't putting in the work and making sure that you actually get the sweat equity out of it, or you put in the sweat equity into it, it's not going to grow and it's not going to flourish. And we see that with other organizations. I'm not going to name them because I don't want to be ugly. But we see that with other people, even from Harry's biological family, who have all these projects that just spring up and then they go away, or these partnerships that just spring up and then they go away. And it's always mired in some sort of confusion and mystery and controversy. And it's never really just straightforward work. And one of the things that I have noticed is when I am trying to follow an organization, or not an organization, but an initiative from end to end, something that I've noticed happens a lot when it's related to the royals, and it is shrouded in mystery. And for the longest, I always just assumed, well, it's privacy for them. And, it's important for them to have some stuff that they don't share with the public, blah, blah, blah. But then when Meghan joined the family and it was all this melee about, she wants privacy, as if privacy, just basic human consideration, is wrong, which it's not. But they exacerbated it to make it seem like, or exaggerated it to make it seem like she was asking for something that was abnormal. Then it made me want to go back and say, well, wait a minute. If her expecting just human decency is a problem, and the mere thought of royals and privacy is just out of whack, then why is it that all of you guys is your income, how much you spend, how much you cost the public? Why is it always shrouded in so much mystery? And then you keep going down that line of thinking and you ask, but then why is it that all your initiatives, they aren't that successful? And when they are, it's all we hear about, because it's not common that the royals have successful initiatives. It's happened, but it's just not common, especially with the level of resources and the type of help they have and assistance they have and access. Everything they present should be successful. And so I think what's interesting about how every initiative, every partnership, every announcement Harry and Meghan have made have been fruitful, and we've been able to follow it from beginning to end with full transparency. It's been such a big deal, partially because it's great work, but also it's in stark contrast to how much mystery and also the lack of productivity coming from the rest of that family. And it really does highlight the fact that you guys actually have a lot of help, a lot more help than Harry and Meghan, and you're taxpayer funded. You should be presenting something every quarter. You should have something going, or you should have an update every quarter about things that you've already published or presented, etc. So I do think Harry and Meghan have done a wonderful job of showing how to stay productive, how to get things done, and how to work towards your passions and make sure things are followed through with end to end. But also it's a masterclass in team building. When we read that Us Weekly article about how well they treat their staff and all of the wonderful things they had to say about them, I think people could pull several points from there and apply to their own leadership if they're leaders in their corporate, and if they're leaders in their work experience, or if they're being led by someone, or if they're training or managing other leaders. It's great to read about how they treat their staff, but it also makes sense why their staff go as hard as they do for Harry and Meghan, because of how well they treat them. But also they work with a purpose. It's a lot easier to stay dedicated to something when there is a real mission behind it and there's a real purpose behind it. Vanity projects don't go far because people don't care. I wouldn't care about a vanity mission, but I absolutely do care about homelessness. I absolutely do care about girls' empowerment and girls' safety and access to resources. I absolutely do care about HIV and AIDS and reducing that and making sure people have access to proper health care. And they stop the spread. Those are things that I actually do care about, and they're not fluff projects, which is why it's easy to get people to participate, to get people to take it seriously. But also, when you are passionate about something, as we've seen with Harry, and we'll see again in a moment, and as we've seen with Meghan, when you are passionate about something, you understand it end to end. You get information, you absorb information about it because you actually care about the outcome, and you can have a conversation about it. You can have a sit down and have a conversation about it. Meaning, when you're looking for affiliates and partnerships and something to elevate the mission, you can talk about it and you can promote it because you know it. What we've seen with vanity projects is a lot of times, and unfortunately, this is more so a hit on the royals who are still over there, but the senior working royals, we haven't really seen a whole lot that they're passionate about. One thing that did surprise me, I had no expectations because we do know that both William and Kate are extremely work shy. But something that did surprise me after the whole kerfuffle was made about Kate and her cancer, and they went through the issues of creating a video to announce it and all of that. When she went through all that, I did assume that if she survived it, if she had it, and then if she survived it, that we would see an avid push for early detection, resources for those in under-resourced areas or marginalized communities who might not have the same level, who don't for sure have the same level of access to healthcare that she does, but who might not have the same level of access to healthcare as other citizens who might be in more resourceful areas or have more access because of their financial means, etc. I really did think I would see her, at least for the public's sake, we would see her advocating more in that area and in that field. And the fact that we didn't, it really not only shows how little she cares about anyone outside of herself, if I'm gonna be real. Hugging a few people on camera isn't what I mean. I mean, actually doing work in that area. But it showed how little she cares about people outside of herself. But it also shows how little she wants to work. After announcing you're going back to work, I should see you dang near every week. And it appears, I'm not trying to make any allegations, but it appears to me that the only time we do see her is shortly after we've seen Meghan. Mind you, Meghan is coming out to, point the attention at something that's important, CHLA, World Empowerment Day, International Day of Girls, Girl Inc. Now, millions and billions of people are looking up Girl Inc. as we speak. So that's what I mean by Harry and Meghan's hard work has so many benefits. But it's also a masterclass in how to get it done. And instead of competing with them, I would hope that people would adopt some of their practices and some of their motivation and say, hey, I do have things that I am passionate about. Even if it's not something I'm sharing here, but it's something I'm passionate about, I should put my energy towards something positive. It would certainly take up a lot more of their time and use it for a positive space, for a positive reason, rather than watching what Harry and Meghan do and then leaking to the press every other week how much you don't like them. I mean, nobody really needs that, and it doesn't help your subjects at all. So I would hope that they kind of look at the way Harry and Meghan are kind of cranking out projects, cranking out missions, getting stuff done, but also the transparency that you can follow it from end to end, and you can see where the money goes, you can see how it benefited, you can see what effort they put in, you can see everyone who was involved. Maybe they should take a page out of that book. The mystery actually doesn't amplify anything that they're doing. And I think it's just because they found a hack in the system and they've been born into incredible wealth and resources and status, and they don't want to work for it because why would they? They don't have to. So it's a shame, but it certainly is more glaring now than it ever has been before. Hi, Joyce Vos. It's always good to see you. Joyce Vos says she may bring Lily to Girl Inc.'s activities in a couple of years. Would that not be amazing? I don't know. I'm still curious as they get older how they're going to integrate them into some of their work. But I am curious, and it would be great to see her there. Oops. There we go. Okay, so let's get some of these. I'm trying to get some more of y'all's comments. Bear with me. As always, hello, Leola Brown. It's great to see you. Leola Brown says, Meghan is truly the perfect example for the kid and all of us. Thanks, Sharion. She really is. She is. She does a wonderful job of staying true to herself, but also devoting herself to these missions. I don't see anything wrong with Meghan sharing more of herself. And I actually hope in the coming years, as people just find freaking hobbies, as online safety becomes more of a hot button issue and we have more resources to protect us and Meghan and other people from the harms of online abuse, I hope we do get to see more of her and Harry. And I hope we get to see more of her sharing in the way that she used to. She had the TIG, which was her blog, which was a monetized blog, and it had a lot of contributors. But she also had the personal aspect to it where she would share her personal thoughts. And you could really get to know her as an individual in that phase of her life. And she had her Instagram, and she gave, more interviews. I hope as things become safer for her to do so, I do hope we get to see that side of her, because it is clear that she is blossoming. And I would love to know more about, I know what's contributing to it, but I would love to know more about what's got her attention right now outside of work. And unfortunately, we're all kind of punished, and we can't have that because people abuse her. And so their crimes become our punishment. And that's always very frustrating for me, because I would love to know more about what's going on in her life, but it isn't safe for her to do so. But yeah, she's a wonderful example. I agree. Gwen Daniel says Meghan looked so beautiful. Hi, Gwendolyn Daniel. Yes, she did. She looked lovely. She looked radiant. And like I said before, you can see that joy emanating out of her pores. And you can see how infectious it is. Look at how everyone around her was also very, very happy. You don't want anyone at your event, whether it's for a fun or exciting event, or if it's for a more serious issue, you don't want anybody there bringing the doom and gloom. And so I love that when Meghan shows up, she shows up with fresh and renewed energy, and she devotes her all to it. I'm sure she'd be so tired after these events, shaking hands, hugging, talking. It's a lot. It's probably very mentally taxing, but she is a pro. She is a natural. And what's more of a testament to that is she seems like she really wants to be there. You're not going to catch her walking up to one of these events making faces and scowls. Like, I literally just saw a royal who hasn't been seen in months walking up to an event for a very serious issue. And I won't go any further than that. I'm sure you can figure it out. But walking up to an event for a very serious issue, and she was literally like scowling. And I'm like, okay, are you not there to bring comfort? I'm not gonna feel so comfortable if you're walking up and you seem like you're already counting the minutes before you even interact with me. Just it's really pathetic. It's really pathetic to see how those people behave, and people just let them get away with it. It's so sad. Yeah, Meghan looked beautiful. She looked very radiant. Hi, Joyce Vos. She says, Meghan always looks so chic and well put together. She knows what looks good on her. Oh, she knows it. Yes. And what I love most is that she doesn't just stay in the pocket of one look. She really does it up. She changes it up. She gives us something fresh all the time, but it still looks like her. She really is good at the whole style thing. I say that in a big black t-shirt. I need to be taking some tips. Joyce Vos went on to say, I like the reports that they put out to show the progress in what they're doing. It shows the coordination of their foundation and other works. Yes, I was actually about to bring that up and I saw your comment. So thank you. I agree. I'm also really excited to dissect that impact report, that insight report, which we do every year, but I'm going to be dissecting that on Monday, and I'm really excited about it. It always gives like a new renewed feeling of motivation, but also it reminds me of the companies and organizations that they work alongside, and I can go and follow them as well. Gwen Daniel says all the little girls look charmed by Meghan. Really cute. They were having a blast. I think I mentioned this with Harry at his last event, but you can tell how somebody showed up and how they're treating people outside of the cameras by their faces and their behavior when the cameras are rolling. And what I mean by that is we've all seen videos of certain people, most recently Ron DeSantis, Donald Trump, talking to a crowd, and then you look at the crowd, they'll be like all impassioned. So like the still frame will be them like with that epic, they always go for the epic pose, and they'll be standing there going, and they'll be doing the stuff, and then everybody around them will be like this. Like they'd be like, child, please get out of my face. You can tell what kind of energy people showed up with. I just saw two other royals had an outing recently, and the people around them just one looked bored. One looked like, okay, I actually have work to really get to. Why am I entertaining these people? And some of them did look like they were invested, but that might have already been their mindset before those royals showed up, because the royals themselves looked bored. It was actually kind of disheartening knowing the cause that they were there to talk about. So I say that to say you can tell how people are truly behaving outside of the cameras by the people's faces around them when the cameras are rolling. Every time you see Harry and Meghan with people, look at their faces. They're always filled with joy. They're always really at ease and relaxed. That says a lot about the energy you showed up with. They're always really at ease. They're always really relaxed, and they're always very invested. I also noticed that there isn't hesitation or any type of reticence for sitting close to Meghan or Harry. People are comfortable sitting next to them, sitting up under them, like talking to them. There's always like a high touch or highly tactile way of communicating. There's no reservations. And that means that when Harry and Meghan show up to places, whether together or separately, they break that protocol barrier, they break that formality barrier, and they're comfortable, kind of moving over those boundaries to make people comfortable. And you can tell that it actually does break down the wall, because most likely people are going to see them and know they're royal and be like, I don't want to jump all over you. I don't want to make you uncomfortable. So it takes them actually extending that to receive it. And you can see that in how they behave and how they hug. Another example of that was in the Parents Network video, when they did the interview, in the Parents Network video, when they were greeting people on the porch, Some of those people they had met for the first time, and the interviewer, Meghan, had met for the first time, and she went in for a hug, and the interviewer talked about that. She gave me a big warm hug upon meeting me. So she definitely makes sure that she shows up without any airs. I don't think she has any. So she shows up in a genuine way, and people respond to that. Truly. I have also, I'll say this, when I was in the corporate world, I did have a corporate mask, and I did realize that I needed to blend more of my corporate mask, which was there to protect myself and to make sure I did a good job. I needed to blend more of who I really am with my corporate mask in order to get through to my staff and to have a better working relationship. And it worked. I definitely let them in a little bit more. Y'all know I'm all about propriety, but I let them in a little bit more. And I did see a higher, more dedicated, higher dedicated, more loyal and hardworking team after I decided to let them in a little bit, told them a few facts about me. But I am in nature very structured. I'm pretty formal. I'm not the most huggy person. So because I am always worried about, not always worried, but I prefer to let people come to me in a way that makes them comfortable. I don't like to be presumptuous, and I don't want to ever cross anybody's boundaries. So when people break that boundary for me, like they break down that tactile boundary, it's good for me because I know what they're comfortable with, and we can really commune and get to know each other. But it takes people showing up genuinely for me to let down my boundary or my barrier as well. That wall really doesn't come down. So it says a lot about how Harry and Meghan are showing up for people based on how they respond to them. And it's always this high camaraderie, but just they have that highly tactile and that kinship. It's really nice to see. Hi, Karen Warner. Oh, you know what? I am going to save your comments until we get to that portion because we are going to talk about that. Hi, Joan Garcia. Joan Garcia says, Sade, they can't do that because they are not positive people in the first place. Yes, so she's talking about the royals. No, they're not. And I'm glad you said that. I also like that you just call me Sade. Nobody ever calls me by my middle name, but you know what? That's a little alluring. I might just start going by Sade. It might give me a little bit of something. But Sade, not Sade. They can't do that because they're not positive people about the royals. Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up. In the podcast episode this week, we talked about King Charles just becoming King Chaos, but always claiming in interviews and through leaks through leaks with sources and courtiers and stuff, they're always putting out that he wants peace. And that's kind of the most recent story that's going around, is that he really wants peace for his birthday. Like, child, anyway, what about the other 364 days? Just your birthday? You need to contribute to the peace. And so one of the points that I made in that podcast episode was, if King Charles wants peace, he has to be peace. If he wants peace, he has to embody peace, and he has to offer peace. He has to promote peace, and he has to act in a peaceful manner. The fact that he doesn't is why peace is not finding him, because he is not welcoming peace in, and he is not creating a place for peace to dwell and thrive. And it's the same thing for positivity. If you want to be positive, or you want to be seen in a positive light, you have to be positive. Positivity is not one of those things you can portray. There are a lot of things you can portray. You can portray formality. You can portray happiness even. You can portray joy if you're a good enough actress. You can even portray sadness to get sympathy. But what you cannot portray is positivity. You have to be and embody it. And that's where they keep getting messed up, because they're not being genuine on that island. They're not being genuine, and they're not showing up authentically. And it's not working for them. You are right, Joan Garcia. Let's see. Hi, Mina Root 2093. Mina Root says, are we surprised that we do see or rarely see Kate do that? We don't see or rarely see Kate do anything. She and William are only doing because Harry and Meghan are out doing the work. Now, I will say this. I'm not surprised by it. Like I said, I don't have the expectation for them to do it because they've always been pretty work shy, but I can acknowledge it. And I did. I acknowledge that they don't want to do anything until it's time to compete. But what I also acknowledged was, if they want to change their standing, they have to change their mindset, and they have to change their level of dedication. They have to actually do the work. But I don't think they're incentivized to do it, because if the world was handed to you in a handbasket and you had nothing but yes men on your island, I mean, unless you're just a good person, which we've seen that they're not, unless you're just a good person, you're not really going to be incentivized to change, because you're being validated in your bad behavior. So, I mean, that's on them. The thing is, you can't really live a fruitful life that way. you can't really live a life that's worth anything. Worth and value don't come from possessions and money and resources. Resources and money and possessions only change your quality of life, but it doesn't change how you live your life. It doesn't change who you are and who you have to face in the mirror. Now, there are some soulless cretins out here that will look themselves in the mirror and be like, we just raised hell all day. And you know what? You gonna have to deal with that. You gonna have to face that at some point. If you don't face it here on this earth, you will face it at some point. And I don't even want to do that. I want to face my demons right here. I want to face my shortcomings. I want to face my mistakes. I want to face the shadows within me that I need to work on and improve and evolve. I don't want to wait until I've lived my life and my life is over to look back and realize I was never really living. I was portraying. I was robotic. I was acting. And even worse, my life was lived in response to someone else in a competition that I've already lost because I'm bothering to compete. I would hate to even live my life like that for a day. I cannot imagine that they're ever going to come out of this delusion that competing with Harry and Meghan is fruitful for them. But when they do, or when they get to the end of their life and they have to really reckon with their choices, I wouldn't even pay to be a fly on the wall. I know that wall is going to hear some wails. No pun intended, the Prince and Princess of Wales. I know those walls are going to hear some true thoughts and some true regrets and some really, really unfortunate professions. And they got to deal with that. And if they don't deal with it now, it's going to be faced with them at some point. But that's on them. Hi, Karen Warner. Karen Warner says, I think the Princess Meghan effect. Pull out the missing one. She don't want Princess Meghan shining like the missing. I was like, the missing one. I read that like a brand name. I was like, pulled out the missing one. Girl, what is that? A handbag? Okay. So you pulled out the missing one, the one that's always missing. Okay, I got you. She don't want Princess Meghan shining like that and having the spotlight and missing is not envy, are we? Perfect comment, because you're 100% right. But I'll even say this, Karen, now see, I'm the type of person that does not like to lose things. I don't like to lose competitions. If I know the battle is lost, I'm not going to keep trying. I'm going to move on to something that is more in line with me and in my destiny. If I know being compared to this woman is the bane of my existence because it's a forever ending loop of disappointment and loss, I am not going to keep coming out right after her just to be compared to her. Like, is this woman a masochist? Does she like the negativity that comes with this? Does she like being insulted and put down? Like either she is heavily deluded and she really thinks there is a competition to begin with, or she just has a kink for the misery of being embarrassed. It's got to be one or the other, because I'm not about to keep losing the same battle every time. I'm going to go find a new opponent, or I'm going to go sharpen up my skills and show back up to the fight renewed, refreshed, and more prepared. I'm not going to keep showing up the same old crotchety, angry person with nothing to offer and be like, I'm going to compete with Meghan. Like, I would leave it alone. Like, girl, no. Like, the best you ever performed in this competition was when you were invisible. Does that not tell you something is wrong? You need to get some help. Like, genuinely, if the most positive press I ever got was when I wasn't around, I would be like, basically, they're celebrating the fact that you were invisible, girl. It's not even a competition with Meghan. It's the competition with your existence. You need to go get some help. Like, you need to change your relationship to the public and not worry so much about the press. The press will pick up what's going on. You need to change your relationship with yourself and then with the public. But when you have built a house of cards on bullshit and lies, it's going to come down. And she don't want that. That's why they can't do the transparency thing, which is a huge asset, but they can't do it because obviously they don't have anything to offer. They built everything up on nothing but lies and nonsense. Oh, well. But you are also very right. Okay, so we're going to get to the next segment. I don't want to talk y'all's ear off. We're going to get to the next segment. Keep the comments coming and we'll continue the conversation when we return. I just wanted to take a super short break to say, if you have not already, please don't forget to go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel, and if you are interested, feel free to participate in the live chat going on now, or feel free to leave a comment if you do not wish to engage in the live chat. Once again, I know I do this all the time. I'm enjoying a channel, I'm enjoying the video, I'm just having a great time, and I completely forget to hit subscribe. So please don't forget to hit subscribe. Don't forget to comment if you wish, and please don't forget to hit that thumbs up button so that the algorithm on YouTube knows that you like my content. Now, let's get back to the show.
It is going to take a collective effort.
The more that there are organizations like Archwell and your parents group, and my organization, based at theanxiousgeneration.com, and Let Grow, which is resources for parents to help give their kids more of a play-based childhood. The more we stand up, link up, sync up, and act together, the quicker we're going to change this.
This update is coming directly from Sussex.com, and it's titled World Mental Health Day 2024. This is Prince Harry sitting down with Jonathan Haidt. In honor of World Mental Health Day, Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, led a significant discussion with Jonathan Haidt, author of the New York Times bestseller, The Anxious Generation. Focusing on the impact of social media, they explored how screens and devices affect the mental health of Generation Z and discussed actionable steps to address the rising mental health crisis among teens. This vital conversation coincides with the release of the Archwell Foundation's second edition of the Archwell Foundation Insight Report. Pause there. We're going to be going over that on Monday in our live stream, which, surprise, we're going to have a live stream on Monday. This report captures insights from ongoing sessions organized by the foundation, which facilitate intimate discussions aimed at deepening our understanding of how young people and parents navigate life in the digital age. The report highlights a global youth perspective on technology's evolving role, featuring contributions from young people across Colombia, Georgia, India, Jamaica, Kenya, Nigeria, Turkey, and the United Kingdom and the United States. These voices shed light on the unique challenges of growing up online and share their hopes for the future. Through the Archwell Foundation, the Duke and Duchess are dedicated to engaging with young people and parents to gain insights on social media and the future of the digital landscape, working together to create a better online world. And again, you can see this report here. You can also watch the full conversation here or on Patreon, which my Patreon viewers or members actually have access to right now. But we're going to be dissecting this report on Monday. Once again, the full conversation is up on Sussex.com. It's the World Mental Health Day 2024 update. And if you are a member of Patreon, then obviously you know you got this update today, and you can watch the full video there as well. Now, next week for members, we are going to be watching this together, and I'm going to be giving my commentary as well as pulling some information from certain research studies that either back up or elaborate on what Jonathan Haidt is saying. But if you want to get the jump on me, feel free. The links are below for the research studies from like Yale Medicine and a few others, Johns Hopkins University. You're more than welcome to take a look at those. We have a lot. I think there are 7. And so now I wanted to pull, again, we're going to do a full deep dive of this interview next week for members on this channel. However, for now, what I really want to do is take a look at just a few key points Jonathan Haidt made and elaborate on them from my perspective.
And then what happens is between 2010 and 2015, the technology changes. They trade in their flip phones for smartphones. And now with a front-facing camera, high-speed internet, 1 million apps that are competing with each other to hook kids' attention. We went through puberty in the early 2010s. Your brain was influenced in early puberty in ways that set you up for worse mental health, especially depression, anxiety.
This is something we have covered on this channel a lot. I've actually been reached out to by a lot of people for my input or my thoughts on things related to age and access and what's appropriate. Now, I don't have children, obviously. However, I have offered my opinion as a random caring bystander and how I do not feel children. And mind you, I'm not talking about you as an adult. I'm not talking even about teens over the age of 17. I'm speaking about children 16 and under having unlimited access to all social media, even with parental controls all the time. I actually feel like social media can be a lot of fun for kids. They have a lot of different apps and a lot of different games and things like that. It's also great for research, and it's also great for access to information that maybe you don't have time to get in the classroom to elaborate on certain information. I feel like social media, if it could be wrangled, could be an incredible asset for information for kids. And I feel like the internet in and of itself, along with socialization and connectivity, as well as news access, that's where we were headed in the beginning. But that's like Dr. Jonathan Haidt is saying here, it's not about the internet itself, it's about social media, which is its own sector of the internet. And I think sometimes people can conflate the two and think you're saying, okay, no, we don't need access to Google. We don't need access, I'm gonna age myself, to askjeeves.com or any of those other things. But it's more so about social media, what it promotes, what it gives children access to, but also how it deeply and gravely affects the developing brain. I appreciate that Jonathan Haidt mentioned how children who are prepubescent and in puberty are developing their core beliefs and their foundational beliefs, and social media, the access to it, and also what they're exposed to is creating a lot of that. When you think of it in those terms, is that not alarming? Mind you, just so that we're clear, the perspective, the heavily manicured angles and lighting and saturation and edits and cropping and specifically curated content meant to send an impression, most of the times about adults and their personal and oftentimes uninformed opinions, highly specialized and specific opinions about whatever worldview they may possess. Your child, during an extremely pivotal developmental time, is having access to that. Mind you, it's not coming from the Jonathan Haidts of the world. It's not coming from the Prince Harrys. It's not coming from the Meghan, the Duchess of Sussexes of the world. It's barely coming from the Obamas. It's barely coming from even the Beyoncés. It's barely coming from these people who have managed their aura, not their aura, have managed their platform very well so that positivity, information, accurate information, those things are promoted. It's oftentimes coming from someone, a child with a child's brain and a child's perspective admires, such as other kids who have platforms, and there are plenty of them. In my day, kids who had platforms went through a machine like Disney, and not that they were perfect or anything, but their image was heavily manicured. So the things that they were allowed to promote and represent were kid safe to a certain extent. So even he made the point that millennials had access to the internet in their developmental stages, but not social media and not smartphones. And that's why you see a huge difference in how millennials approach adulthood and how we've had development versus Gen Z, who actually had social media, which is the difference here. But I also want to point out, like, a child is going to find the people that they admire. Now, I want you to think back to who you admired as a kid, whether you were 5, 10, or 16. Who did you admire? For me, at 5 years old, I admired Littlefoot. Littlefoot from The Land Before Time. That was my guy. When I was 11, it was Lizzie McGuire. She was my fave. Tia and Tamara, they were my faves. Raven Simone, they were my faves. Aaliyah. And then at 16, it was Beyonce. It was Beyonce, it was Janet Jackson, it was Michael Jackson, it was celebrities. I wasn't out here being a fan of people conducting scientific research. I love me some Bill Nye the Science Guy, but he wasn't talking about things that I was absorbing at that time. And so with a child brain, if those people who I had access to weren't on platforms that heavily manicured their image to make sure that the things they promote and represented and stood for were appropriate for me with my own child perspective and my developing brain during puberty, I would have been exposed to some terrible things. Imagine if I'm a big fan of Littlefoot and he's twerking and he's promoting misinformation. I mean, think about that. Think about, I'm a fan during my puberty ages between 11 and 13. I was a huge fan of Lizzie McGuire, Raven Simone, Tia and Tamara, Brandy. These were people with heavily manicured and kid-safe images, and they only promoted and stood for kid-safe things. So imagine if they I had access to their personal life through social media, if I had access to paparazzi videos of them saying or doing unscrupulous things, what if I had access to them and they chose to go off their rocker with all this access and share misinformation with me during my developmental years? I might become radicalized in a very bad way. So I appreciate that he's pointing out that it's the level of access, the age group, and during those developmental years that the most damage is being done. And I also want to point to a study in the Child Mind Institute that continues to elaborate his point here. This study was titled, "Does Social Media Use Cause Depression?" And it was written by Caroline Miller, and she consulted two doctors with PhDs about it. It says a 2017 study of over 500,000 8th through 12th graders found that the number exhibiting high levels of depressive symptoms increased by 33% between 2010 and 2015. This is the time period author Jonathan Haidt actually just mentioned. He said around the 2010s, the 2012s, that's when access to smartphones skyrocketed. In the same period, the suicide rate for girls in that age group increased by 65%, which he also talked about. Smartphones were introduced in 2007, and by 2015, fully 92% of teens and young adults owned a smartphone. So again, continuing to prove his point, that's when it became more affordable, or the refurbished or the second gen versions came out. So the first gens were affordable for children. So it makes a lot of sense. The rise in depressive symptoms correlates with smartphone adoption during that period, even when matched year by year, observes the study's lead author, San Diego State University psychologist Jean Twang, PhD. Over that same time period, there was a sharp spike in reports of students seeking help at college and university counseling centers, principally for depression and anxiety. Visits jumped 30% between 2010 and 2015, and they've continued to rise since the pandemic, which actually makes sense. And I also want to share just a small portion of this next aspect. Again, if you want to dissect this whole research study, I highly recommend. It's linked below. And it says, one of the biggest differences in the lives of current teenagers and young adults compared to earlier generations is that they spend much less time connecting with their peers in person and more time connecting electronically, principally through social media. Some experts see the rise in depression as evidence that the connections social media users form electronically are less emotionally satisfying, leaving them feeling socially isolated. So it's literally a cause and cure. So it's causing the isolation, and it's not a cure, but it's definitely how they're using it to remedy the isolation that they're feeling, further staying trapped, which is why both Prince Harry, for months now, he said this as well, for years, he first said this in the Time 100 chats, and Jonathan Haidt actually echoed this, is that these apps, these platforms are created to entrap children. It's to appeal and to keep them hooked. That is a problem. It is an addiction. I also want to point to the next study that I want to reference on this. I also wanted to talk about the health advisory that was issued by the U.S. Surgeon General, Dr. Vivek Murthy. If you can recall, he actually participated on the panel of the Archwell Foundation's Parents Summit in New York City alongside Harry and Meghan. It says psychological scientists examine potential beneficial and harmful effects of social media use on adolescents' social, educational, psychological, and neurological development. This is a rapidly evolving and growing area of research with implications for many stakeholders, i.e., youth, parents, caregivers, educators, policymakers, practitioners, and members of the tech industry who share responsibility to ensure adolescents' well-being. Officials and policymakers, including the U.S. Surgeon General, Dr. Vivek Murthy, have documented the importance of this issue and are actively seeking science-informed input. And so if you want to read through this, it is extremely informative. I highly recommend you do. It has a lot of great information. And lastly, on this topic, I wanted to share this write-up in the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Office of the Surgeon General. And it says, social media use by young people is nearly universal. Up to 95% of young people aged 13 to 17, that group that Jonathan Haidt was just talking about, report using a social media platform. Nearly 2/3 of teenagers report using social media every day, and 1/3 report using social media almost constantly. social media presents a meaningful risk of harm to youth while also providing benefits. The types of use and content children and adolescents are exposed to pose mental health concerns. Children and adolescents who spend more than 3 hours a day on social media face double the risk of mental health problems, including experiencing symptoms of depression and anxiety. This is concerning, as a recent survey showed that teenagers spend an average of 3.5 hours a day on social media. And when asked about the impact of social media on their body image, 46% of adolescents aged 13 to 17 said social media makes them feel worse.
What's true is that the internet was great for them. The internet solved all these problems in the 90s. If you're a gay kid, you're not out to anyone, the internet was amazing. You could find information, you could find people who are like you, and you could communicate. There were a lot of ways, there were a lot of groups that you could talk to. It's now about the news feed and an algorithm-driven news feed that sends content to you. This is not what they need. If you have any special interest, you can find that with Google. You don't need an algorithm to feed you stuff.
Well, now most of these kids are going to TikTok because they want to see someone of their own generation.
Yeah, that's right. So it's
not only was that whole point made perfectly executed, but what did you hear Prince Harry say right at the end? And now the kids are going to TikTok because they want to what? See someone from their own generation. And that's where it gets tricky, because I don't know about you guys, but how many of you were at the age of 12 in a position and had the wherewithal, the maturity, and the intellect to lead a generation about any damn thing? I mean, you were probably just learning fractions or really getting a good grasp of percentages. You're not in a position to lead a movement or inform anyone else. And that's the issue, because here's the thing. Children socializing one-to-one with a group of people in their own proximity, in their own neighborhood, they probably are within the same range of intellect and maturity. And they're hanging out with other like-minded kids. And no, none of them are in a position to truly lead or inform. But they're in that space, not enclosed, but they're isolated there in some way. And they still have access to their parents and their own means of research. And so they're not actually looking up to these other kids. They're peers with these other children. However, give a kid a microphone and a platform, and some kids don't have a whole lot of restriction. And so you give these kids who can become internet celebrities or any other means of celebrity or public figure standing, and they're talking to your child who might admire them or grow to admire them by following them for a long time. And now whatever this child in their generation who isn't that much more informed than your kid is giving your kid advice, and they're taking it as fact. That's why it's so important to recognize how this is different. Yes, the type of communication has changed, but it's also about perspective. It's also about access. It's also about what social media means and how you're portrayed on it. So in my day, oh gosh, I'm back to aging myself, but in my day, when I was in the 8th grade, which is around the age group that they're kind of talking about is the most vulnerable in this situation. When I was in 8th grade, when you were the hot kid right now, or you were the popular kid, you came to school in like the new Air Maxes. You came to school in some fresh Adidas shell toe classics, and they were new and they were stark white without a smudge on them. The freshly white shoelaces, they've only been worn once, maybe. And so that's when you're the popular kid at school. You might get a new jacket. I know the boys were getting the Rocawear jackets. The girls are wearing the baby fats jackets with the fur on the hood. And, you might have a fresh new outfit and that made you popular, or you might have given a really great presentation and that made you popular, or you may be running for like student government or what is it, prom king, or not in 8th grade, but whatever it is, the little 8th grade duchess and the 9th grade princess and the 7th grade, whatever. And you're running for these things and that's making you popular, or you're just a really good athlete or cheerleader, etc. But those things are confined within proximity to you at your school, and they're managed by adults. You are monitored, it's moderated, and you are protected. People are protected from you and your ignorance and immaturity, and you're protected from other people's ignorance and immaturity. The internet is the wild, wild west. So in that aspect, to be popular on the internet, you could eat a worm and your video goes viral, and now you have millions of kids looking for you to do the next thing. Not only is that detrimental to you because you're being encouraged to do things that are harmful to you, but that's detrimental to them because they're impressionable and they're saying, I want to be popular too. So instead of asking my mom for the new Game Boy or the new Air Maxes or a new puffer jacket, I'm going to go dig up a worm and eat it and upload it. And not only that, but kids don't truly have a really good understanding, because it is fairly new, of how long the internet lasts. It's forever. And how your reputation, in my day, my reputation started when I was 20 and got my first social media account. Now kids' reputation starts when they're infants and their parents makes their first Instagram and post all their baby pictures. And their most pivotal moments are no longer family moments that everyone shares, in a photo album or on a tape recorder or in a text message even. Now, kids' first steps are an Instagram post. Kids' first jalapeno is a post of watch them eat this funny food. So now these bonding moments, these moments of closeness and these memories are commodified. They're no longer tools to build a stronger bond with your family and have these moments within the family that you celebrate together, and it improves your intimacy and connection and bond. Now it's, look at my child lose their first tooth. And while that I'm not necessarily saying that's a problem, but these children, they don't know the difference between privacy and secrecy. And so they're saying it's okay to post as long as it's not indecent, but you're also giving the world a timeline of you in public before you're even old enough to truly understand what consent means and give consent to sharing these personal, private facts about yourself. And so it makes children and people alike vulnerable, so that when they become an adult at some point, and it's already beginning when you become an adult and you start applying for jobs or you start running for office or you start doing anything, people can say, let me go look at your history real quick. It's a Black Mirror episode, if we're going to be real, because I remember actually working at a job, and I won't name them, but I worked there when I first started my YouTube channel, actually. And we were going over recruitment strategies. And the woman who was hiring, she was grandfathered in as the CEO, I think. I can't remember. She was C-suite. But anyway, I was the head of operations, and she asked me to recruit. And she said, I have some must-haves that I really want you to do when you recruit. It's just one of those things that make me feel better. And one of them was social media use. I am one of those people that's on the fence about that, because I feel like I'm not going to go observe your competency for this job at a bar while you're at a bar with your friends. If it's a matter of brand affiliation, etc., I'll just say, when you go do your thing, make sure your real name isn't showing. Or when you work with clients, we're going to go by your middle name, so that when they look you up, they don't know you. I would prefer to do that instead of, I don't need to know everything about you. But if you do feel like your exploits outside of here are going to become an issue for the company, use your middle name when you're here. We can just adjust. But she swore by this process of researching people's social media. And I mean, spending a good 3 hours researching. And she was coming back with baby photos. And I remember saying, okay, kind of new at this company, so I don't want to make a lot of waves, but why the hell do you need to know that they wore mommy's big boy t-shirt when they were 3 months old? Like, this isn't necessary. She was just nosy. And so I'm not saying that everyone is like that person, but I am saying a hell of a lot of people are. And at what point do we recognize propriety versus necessity? I don't need to see your Instagram to know if you're good for the job. Now, if you are out here posting hate posts and things that are concerning for safety, yeah, I need to know that. But a lot of that is going to come back on a general sweep. I don't need a deep dive. And so I'm saying that to say, kids who are in that developmental age that they're mostly targeting with this conversation are posting things that are going to follow them for the rest of their life. Now, my perspective at 12 and 13 was quite insane. I wanted Britney Spears to be the queen of the world. I also wanted to be a princess. In addition to that, I wanted to be in a girl group. And I also wanted to be an astronaut who raised dinosaurs. Things like that. I was like, Jurassic Park really could happen if you really take amber out of a tree. And so you need that private time as a child in those developmental years to be a complete wackadoo. And the extent of that should be your family's problem. It certainly shouldn't be accessible to other impressionable kids on the internet, where they might actually bond with you over it, create a parasocial relationship with you, and be influenced by you. And so I shared all that to say, social media isn't necessary for kids and their development. The internet, like Jonathan Haidt is saying, is necessary and helpful and beneficial. All of the benefits that are raised about kids' use for social media is actually only applicable to the internet. They can have all those things on the internet. I even remember private chat rooms where me and my best friend, both my best friends, would group chat essentially in IMs, where we had a private chat room where we talked all the time and it was just us and we were protected. So it's things like that. Like, we did have socialization and connection, but we weren't susceptible to these, or we weren't served up on a platter to these predators or misinformation and disinformation, especially information that could radicalize us.
So in many cases, the smartphone has and is stealing young people's childhood.
Exactly. We are overprotecting our children in the real world and underprotecting them online.
I wanted to leave us with that last word. We are overprotecting our children in the real world and underprotecting them online. And that is so cool. So many of the stories that we hear from Parents Network, if you haven't checked out those go look at them on Sussex.com or archwell.org. They're in both places. But so many stories that we hear about harm coming to children from strangers or from the internet are from social media use and the lack of protection there. And I've mentioned it before, like here on YouTube, for example, if that's where you're watching this live stream, I've mentioned it before how on YouTube, they have restrictions for posting content directly for kids. They have a lot of requirements now about posting for children or getting on the kids' side of YouTube. And the restrictions on videos as far as content, language, verbiage, apparel, whatever, is a lot higher, as it should be. But as we've seen, it's easy for kids to get around it. Something else I'll talk about is just like there are not a lot of spaces for kids to just be kids. When I was growing up, we had age-restricted kids clubs where we could go and dance and enter dance contests, and they wouldn't play certain music. Nothing had profanity. We had all kinds of activities, arcades, etc. And while I do not have a problem with adults still being tapped into that childlike excitement, which I'm one of those adults. I love the arcade. I love putt-putt golfing games. I love, going swimming. I like to do fun stuff. It's not like an age restricted thing. I still play video games in my downtime from time to time. I'm all about Sims. I got all the cheat codes. I believe that your interests don't stop when you are an adult. I think they find new ways to evolve, or some stay the same. And it's good to stay tapped into things that just are fun. Just pure fun. But there need to be kids only spaces for so many of those things. There's not enough. So much of where we used to go as kids have turned into another third space for an adult. For example, putt-putt golfing games, the one I used to go to, did not serve alcohol. It was like a concession stand. They had food, but it was like a concession stand. They served food and drinks that kids could order. Now, I've seen, and I know it's fun for the whole family, but now I've seen that almost all of the putt-putt places I used to go to, they serve alcohol. They have adult stuff there now, like more adult-sized games. And I just think sometimes, yes, there should be family spaces, but I think sometimes it should be more separate, or at least I think establishments should do a little bit better of a job separating those places. And that's just in the real world. On the online world, there is no separation, no matter how much it's implied. Kids are smarter than most adults, just gonna be honest, when it comes to technology, because they've been having it since they were kids, since they were born. When I was little, my granddad and my uncle taught me to ride a bike. But when I learned to ride that bike, I learned all the tricks of the trades. I knew how to stand up on it. I knew how to, you pump somebody, they sit on the seat and you ride the bike. I knew how to stand on my handlebars. I knew how to pop a wheelie. My grandpa and my uncle ain't taught me all that. But it was because by the time they learned to ride a bike, they were much older. I learned to ride a bike very, very young. And so I had time to learn all the tricks of the trade. And it's kind of the same way. It like zoomed out. It's kind of the same thing with the internet. Like when we as millennials, I'm 37, got the internet, it was chat rooms, and they were heavily moderated and monitored. I think I've mentioned this before. I entered a chat room where somebody asked me what race I was, and they got kicked out. And it was just getting to know you stuff. They were like, oh, okay, what's your religion? What's your race? You know, how old are you? What grade are you in? Like, we're all just asking questions back then. It was when chat rooms were new. It was when you needed a disc to download AOL. And there's that. And it had to dial up, so everybody needed to be off the phone. And we were moderated. My mom could get a transcript of anything I typed into a chat room, anything at all, or anything that was said to me. Things have changed. Genuinely, things have changed. I was shocked when I saw that on Instagram, you can now do vanishing. Oh gosh, I just feel so out of depth. Vanishing, like you can DM somebody and then vanish it. So if someone else comes behind you, they can't see what you wrote in the DM unless they know to unvanish. What is the goal here? So if my child is contacted by an adult or somebody who means them harm, and I can't see it even if I am checking in some instances. It's like 3 different inboxes now for IG. I don't even want to begin to try to understand what's going on with Facebook. Like, I've logged into Facebook because I have one that's dedicated to the YouTube and promotes the YouTube. And I got in there and I had like 3 different inboxes. It was like the inbox for the page and inbox for the account. And I was just like, like the SpongeBob meme, the Mr. Crab meme, when everything is spinning. I was like, let me get out of here. Is it a comment? I'll read the comment. I just couldn't get with it. And so I say that to say these apps are becoming more easy to use for kids to get around parental restrictions. But then for the parents, they're promoting this, oh, well, there are staunch lines of protection and blah, blah, blah. And it's not a whole lot I can do when I have parental controls on my Disney account, but then my child can go and create a PIN so that I can't see certain things have been watched already, which I was shocked. Okay. I had a parental control set up for my nephew. And y'all know I have 13 nieces and nephews. I let one of my nephews join me on Disney Plus. It's Disney Plus, for God's sakes, as Evelyn Braxton says. For God's sakes, it's Disney Plus. I'm thinking everything on the app is cool. But I did set it to where he can't watch anything that is above PG-13. And if he tries to access something, it'll bounce him back. And if he does it like 3 times, I can't remember what it is, but I think it like kicks him out. He has to relog in or something. But I thought I did the most protections I could. I'm trying to be a good aunt here. And he set up a PIN so that when he watches certain things, if he puts in this PIN, it won't show me. And I'm just like, what's the point? The goal is to protect the child. If the account holder sets up something that restricts the other accounts, then that should be that. Now, I did get the email. And they let me know. They said a PIN has been set up and here's what happens with the PIN. And I just gave him a little call and I said, hey, what you need a PIN for if you already got a password? What you trying to watch? And he was like, oh, well, I wanted to watch TVMA. I don't know what that is. He was like, I wanted to watch TVMA things because one of my shows is anime and they use language. I said, then you don't need to be watching that on my account. You have to ask your parents. If they let you use language, then you can go watch that and be a cussing fool. But you're not going to be a cussing fool on my account. I'm not going to promote it. And so I'm actually talking about things in a more roundabout other entertainment spaces. But online, he can actually see that same. If his mom would give him his computer back, I have an idea of why he lost it. But if he has access to that same anime, that they just be cussing up a storm with no problem. They uploaded it to YouTube and some other places. He sent me some TikToks of some songs and I'm listening to the song and I said, that's got a nice beat. Okay. And I'm trying to jam with my nephew and I'm like, oh, they use their words. I kind of have a rule of you don't need to be. I used to have this rule. You don't need to be listening or watching anything that you can't watch on general cable TV, on a primetime network, or on the radio. I had to change that rule because they allow them to say all kinds of words on there now. I remember Bravo. I was shocked that Bravo, which is not primetime network, but I do. It's publicly available. They let them say the D word, meaning a member for a man. They let them just say it. I was like, okay, when did this stop being kind of a taboo word in polite conversation? But I say that to say you never know where kids are going to scroll. We never know where kids are going to switch the channel, but we absolutely have no bearing or no control over what kids will have access to on the internet. And anything that radio and TV and streaming doesn't allow them to watch, the internet offers them with ease and no problem. And they even have it to where they can watch things incognito, and we never know they even were exposed to it. Technology is advancing faster than parents can inform themselves, and you have to ask yourself why. When Prince Harry made the point that for the bad results that occur because of this behavior, the platform should be held accountable and legislation to see to it, I agree 100%, because what the hell are parents supposed to do? Now, here's the thing. I don't agree with spanking. That is an individual issue. I'm not going to debate anybody on their personal choices. I don't believe in spanking. And that's not my place to oppose anyone else or be in anybody else's business, but I don't believe in hitting kids. I don't believe in hitting people in general. But I can't spank my kid. But you can show my kid a sex scene that I would never approve. You can cuss in front of my kid. You can expose my kid to words and names and sex acts that I've never even heard of. You can expose my kids to all kind of drugs and in the form of PSAs, show them where to get these drugs where I would never find out. You can show my kids the worst sides of life way before they're developmentally advanced to handle it. But I can't pop my kid on the hand when they acted a fool. So I agree. If we're going to protect the kids, which we should, legislation has to back that up, because we can't leave it up to parents, because some kids don't even have parents or guardians. Some kids are being raised by other kids. Some kids are being bounced from home to home to home with inconsistent care and protection. Some kids have access to a lot of things. Some kids, parents work so late. And I also wanted to elaborate on this, some of the solutions posed by Jonathan Haidt, which were great solutions, but also there are kids and communities who fall through the cracks that those solutions would not adhere to. For example, when he says, okay, kids don't need a smartphone, I agree with that. Kids don't need, I'll say this, I think there's a balance. I think as kids age, they should have more access to things with restriction and consideration. I don't think any kid should just have a smartphone in their pocket all the time. I don't think any kid needs an iPad all the time. I don't think any kid needs that stuff all the time. I think if they are responsible and able to handle it like anything else, it should be provided to them and they can have it with restriction and limitations. With all things, that should be the case. Nobody should have no kid should have access to anything 100% of the time. Even computers can pose a problem. Even the most basic forms of computers, because the internet has made it so that you can pretty much download anything. And so I say that to say legislation has to back parents up. This is not a parent's issue. It's a parent's issue, but it isn't a parent's problem to fix, because you are out of solutions when you have the biggest tech geniuses in the world addicting your child to things. You are never going to be more technologically savvy than some of these kids, and you're never going to imagine being more technologically savvy than the Bill Gates of the world and all these tech gurus. They're working 100% of their time to keep your kid addicted. We can only hope to keep up. We certainly aren't going to get ahead. And so what bothers me is when people act like, oh, well, it should be up to the platform to protect kids. The platform is here to make money. It's the same reason why Disney and Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network existed, because those are kids safe spaces when I was coming up. And those are the only channels out in PBS that I was allowed to watch when my mom wasn't home. Now, she claims she knew what I watched. Now I'm realizing she may have fibbed about that, but we didn't have that kind of TV. But she was like, and I can tell when you switch the channel. My channels were 13, 4, 20, 26, and 50. I could only watch those channels. And even then, there was some content where we would get a warning because the word damn had been used. Now, damn is just in a cartoon. Now, damn is just part of polite conversation, and kids are just absorbing. And I'm being polite about that. The internet has made it so kids can see the inner workings of anything they have any kind of desire to see. There's this joke I saw on Golden Girls, and this woman says, I don't want to buy any encyclopedias because my son, I bought a whole set, and all my son wanted to do was research female or a human genitalia female. And I bought a whole encyclopedia set just so he could do that. And I just thought about that, like, wow, how things have changed Because with the internet, they can look at anything from anybody way before they're developmentally sound to handle it, or with an adult who can explain what's going on and give them an informed lesson. Now they have access to it before their brains can handle it, and their little kid brains are just being pummeled to death with new information that does not belong to them. At this point, we don't have the ability. You know how people back in the day used to say, as you get older, you learn more and more, you get more specific, you offer them more information that'll answer the question, but not too much that'll confuse them or overwhelm them. Now, kids can see and learn anything at any age. And I'm only talking about the side of stumbling upon information that isn't desirable for certain age groups. I'm not even talking about the fact that there are people on the internet who utilize the blind spots that parents have about technology to prey on kids. And it's those blind spots that give me so much concern, because parents are working all day. Most parents are working all day. And as our economy continues to go on this path, things are getting more and more and more expensive. So parents are having to work more and more and more. And if a parent decides, I want to upgrade my job, I need to go back to school, education is costing more and more and more. And by the time you finish paying for your education, it's time to pay for your child. Like, you don't get a break. So parents aren't having the ability for one of them to stay home anymore. Parents aren't having the ability to be home more and make sure kids even got schoolwork done. Things have changed. And it shouldn't be left up to these capitalistic, money-hungry apps to protect our kids. We have to do something as a whole. Society needs a shift. We need a shift. Legislation needs a huge shift. And there need to be consequences for any company or person that exploit children in any way. I'm even on the fence about kids getting to be actors and actresses. Like, I have gotten to that point in my age where I'm like, kids don't really need to be acting under a certain age. They don't even need to be, I've heard so many horror stories. I'm like, it's just not beneficial. The cost versus the reward is just not there. It's not equitable. It's just not right. I'm at that place where kids should get to have a childhood and be kids. Actually, the older I get and the more I start diving into these testimonials of child actors and kids who were in entertainment and things like that, I'm starting to once again validate my same opinion about Harry and Meghan and keeping their kids protected from the limelight, because there's so many weirdos out here that they protect their kids' privacy and allow them to have as normal of a childhood as possible. They don't exploit them. They don't trot them out for every time Dick and Harry to take every kind of picture they want with them and do whatever they want with the images. They just not going to give you that. And I appreciate that they are parents that are like that. I'm sure they know pictures with me, my husband, and my kids, or me, my wife, and my kids are going to have us on every blog and every newspaper, every magazine, but they don't care about that. They don't chase the limelight. They are the limelight. So they don't have to exploit themselves or their kids for that. But above all else, they put their kids' safety and well-being first. And even now, and they're able to do that. But there are parents out here who are working their hardest, doing everything they can, trying their best, truly, genuinely making every decision they can to make sure their kids are happy. And there's some tech guru who's done nothing but research because they have all the free time in the world. They're probably a Nepo baby or some kind of privileged asshole. And they're sitting there doing research all day, every day to figure out a way to get around this hardworking parent's perspective so they can get directly to the kid to make some money. And it's disappointing. It's frustrating. And parents deserve a lot more support from our legislation and these platforms. But we won't get the support from the platforms to protect our kids if we don't get it from legislation to back us up. And that's why I'm glad that Harry and Meghan have been so vocal about the type of legislation that's needed. They've been calling it out. And it's going to take more people with power and platforms to continue to call it out and rally and all that. So anyway, y'all don't need to keep hearing me complain and whine and cry. Let's get to some of these comments. Sorry, it's something I'm very passionate about, is protecting kids. Because I'm going to tell you, when I saw that PN email, it was like Disney Plus said, hey, someone created a PN on this account. I said, no, wait a minute. Why you need a privacy PN? Like, no, you don't need no privacy PN. What's so private about what you watching? Anyway, let's get to some of these comments. Hi, Karen Warner. Karen Warner says, the interview Prince Harry did was awesome. My cup is overflowing with love and compassion for my man. I just always love him. He fills my heart now after losing Princess Diana so soon. I feel she is here. I 100% agree. I know that she is just beaming with pride and joy that her son turned out exactly as she would have wanted him to. And he's probably exceeded her expectations. It's beautiful to see. Hey, Mina Ruth 2093. Mina Ruth says, if Petty Charles really wanted peace, he wouldn't be treating his youngest son and his family like trash. But yet this is the same man who dogged out his first wife. Exactly. He is a man without morals. There are zero expectations I have for that man. When he says something or leaks something, it goes in one ear and out the other. Because what do you mean you want peace when you have been doing nothing but raise hell since you've been on this earth? It's just ridiculous. Hi, Gwendolyn Daniel. Gwendolyn Daniel says, Charles cares for no one, but I need to vet some of these comments. But Horseface Camilla, I know. Hopefully she never scrolls past one of my videos, because imagine her just being like, oh, I'll just check out what's on the YouTube. And she's just scrolling and be like, I'll talk to the big bun girl. And she click and I'm sitting here like, Horseface Camilla. I know she was like, do not recommend reports. But no. And then I do wonder what the thoughts are about her new pen pal. I'll leave it at that. Hi, TMCD. It's good to see you. TMCD says, the recent interview Prince Harry did was well done. Oh, yeah, he has been killing it with these interviews. I'm looking forward to both the Sussexes interviews in the future. I am too. I look forward to more of their interviews because they have so much to say and so much depth. I enjoy when they share a lot of their insights with us. Hi, Lottie. Lottie says, I saw that photo yesterday. She walked up smiling, but the smile soon turned to a frown. She's talking about Kate Middleton. Kate Middleton walked up to her engagement and she walked up with this like smile. And then for a second, the mask slipped and she was like, and I was like, whoa, well, where is she going? And it was to talk to someone about like knife attacks in a park. And I'm just like, why are you looking like that? Were you the attacker? Like, girl, what is your problem? Like, you should be showing like a compassionate, a comforting, a positive look. You shouldn't be showing up there angry. Hi, Mina Ruth 2093. Mina Ruth says, this was a good interview that Prince Harry did with Jonathan. I agree. They both had so much to say. If you have not seen the whole interview, feel free to check it out on Sussex.com. Or if you're a member of Patreon, then you'll be seeing, if you haven't seen the alert yet, you'll be seeing it very soon. It's an incredible interview and we will be dissecting it next week. Hi, Karen Warner. Karen Warner says, if we are dealing with idiots, we can't help them. We just can't, as per Prince Harry. I can't. And he, you're right, Karen Warner, but he's right. Like, at this point, if you are having this perspective, or if this is how you're receiving this, then you are going out of your way to receive it this way. And I cannot help you. You are determined to hold on to your stupidity like a life raft. And you cannot pull people away from their destiny. You have to just let them go over the waterfall of stupidity. Hi, TMCD. TMCD says, it said that a man with no morals will never find his way. And I picked this because that is such an incredible quote. And it's so freaking true. You have to have a moral base to revert back to. You have to be a principled person with a set of values. And when you lack that, you are susceptible to the ways of the world like wind. You'll just blow with the wind. Hi, TMCD. TMCD said, my daughters monitor all my grandchildren's online media. And she went on to say, this next one, it's very important that parents play a large role in minding what their children see and watch on all social platforms, because the platforms aren't doing a good job of it. And they aren't doing a good job. They're not trying to at all. They put this message out there like, oh, we're doing all we can, but they're not doing anything, because again, it's your platform. If you didn't want children to be able to be contacted by anyone older than them or who's an adult, then you could make it so. You should have the privacy. I mean, you should kind of rebuff the privacy concerns when it comes to that, because you need to know what children are on your platform. The thing is, they don't want it. They want to have that plausible deniability. They want like, oh, they see kids getting harmed as like casualties for the big picture. And that's what makes it even worse. Zero perspective. Thank you so much, TMCD, for the super sticker. I really appreciate that. The next comment is from Monticello. That Littlefoot, so cute. Yes, I loved Littlefoot. I love dinosaurs. I was just a big fan of dinosaurs. Now I've lost it since, but I could recite every name of every dinosaur and all the facts about them and stuff. Anytime a new dinosaur got discovered, like family, friends, cousins, uncles, aunts would call me and be like, "Did you hear about this?" And I'd be like, "What? That was discovered in the Western Hemisphere." Like all kinds of information. I love dinosaurs. Innocent little idols and interests. But now kids aren't really getting to have that innocent phase. They're going straight from I want to be an astronaut, I want to be a fireman, to I know everything about every celebrity that ever lived, and I know all the ups and downs. I know about their drug use and their fall from grace. And it's like, okay, baby, but you 6. You supposed to still be idolizing Barney, Baby Bop. And I'm not talking about Phaedra. I'm saying Baby Bop on Barney. I need you to still be in children's content. But it's the lines between adult and children's content has soon been getting blurred. Y'all have heard me rant on here about how it makes me really angry when they slip in adult jokes and kids content. It ticks me off because adults have so much access to so much content, so many activities that are catered to us as adults. Kids deserve safe spaces and safe content. And if you are watching a movie with your kid and you can't do that or enjoy that without hearing a joke for you, then you really need to check yourself. Everything is not going to be catered to you. I hate that they do that. Like, I know that some of the jokes are iconic and all that stuff, but like some of the jokes shared in Shrek and stuff like that, it really does bug me because it's like, okay, most kids probably won't get it. But the point is, why expose them to stuff at those ages? When you know what your target audience is, your content needs to be appropriate for that target audience. And anything they get advanced knowledge of should not be coming from you. And I'm not a fan of that. Adults get their own jokes and their own content 24 hours a day. If they take a moment to watch a movie with a kid, it should be fine to watch an innocent movie with a kid. It just bothers me. Poor kids. Hi, Karen Warner. Karen Warner says, to quote Joyce Myers, one of my favorite bestsellers and inspirational pastors, said, where the mind goes, the man follows. If hate is in you, that is in you. That is what you will follow. We all witness. No, you're right. She went on to say, I was competing with social media during that age period to parent my son. He didn't get a phone call. He didn't get a cell phone until high school against my better judgment because he felt he didn't fit in. Peer pressure. I appreciate you even sharing that. That had to be very difficult to even share. But like you said, and Prince Harry pointed this out actually in the whole interview. I can't wait to dissect the whole thing. He pointed that out. There is peer pressure, not just on kids, but on the adults, because no adult wants to see their kid be left out. And so many programs and so many games and so many socialization tools are specific to the type of phone you have. And so if your kid's the only one without one, they're being left out of a lot of things. That's also part of the problem. Kids need more spaces and more activities that they can do phone free, that they can get fully invested in. I was talking to a little cousin of mine recently, and he was saying that he used to like football, but after Pee Wee, he decided not to play anymore. And I was like, you were really good. Why'd you stop? And he was like, I just be getting bored with it. I don't want to stand outside all day. I'm just going to get on my computer and get on my PS5. And I was like, staying outside all day was my dream. They used to literally have to arrest me to bring me in the house. I used to have my little hands and be telling Mama, let me back outside. Like I was ready. Don't let me have a big ball or anything like that. I could be outside by myself or with friends all day long. Being outside was the bee's knees. And instead my cousin is motivated to come back in the house so that he can play his video game. Video games were the thing you did when your friends weren't available, and they were fun, but they weren't nearly as fun as kicking a ball around, or even, I'm about to get real old on y'all, kicking the can. We used to play, my granddaddy owned a big plot of land at the end of the street that his house was on. And we used to go down there and play actual football. Like real football, all the neighborhood kids. Mind you, all the neighborhood kids was my cousins. Like across the street, down the street, behind us, on the other street. They were all cousins or very close family friends. And we would go down and play football. We'd be so dirty and beat up. And it was the time of my life. I cannot imagine even having a phone. I used to hate when my parents could reach me or anybody could reach me because I'm outside playing. And I feel like kids have lost that physical activity. I also loved how in the interview they talked about the correlation versus causation. Just because we see a heightened level of anxiety and depression in kids who have a smartphone and are using it avidly, it doesn't mean that's the cause. And while I know that you can't just blanket things like that, there are so many research studies that show that social media in particular, not internet use, social media in particular in prepubescent kids is causing anxiety and stress and depression. But aside from that, it's also, like I said in the video, cause and cure, in my opinion, not cause and cure, cause and remedy, because by using your phone and your computer and your video games more, you are in a more isolated state. And then on top of that, when you're in a more isolated state, you probably don't feel your best. So you use it more. Cause and cure, cycle, 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 cycle. Not only that, but with kids who are playing outside, you're getting physical activity, you're getting endorphins. You're happier, you're more in shape, you're healthier, which means your body is performing better, which means you're eating better, you're feeling better, your quality of life is better if you're playing outside, if you're getting physical activity. And to do that, you're also getting socialization in person. You're filling all your needs. When you come in and you play on the computer, well, that's fine because I had all day to play outside and get fit and get comfortable. Now kids are skipping PE and getting on their phones. It's just we've taken a bad turn. And I've said this before with technology. Before we present these things, because again, it's not to where when my parents didn't want me to have AOL anymore, they just took the disc in their room and put it in the closet. Kids can get internet from anywhere. Like Jonathan Haidt said, it's a supercomputer in your pocket. When I grew up, I had Snake on my phone and I didn't get that till I was 16. And I got that for my birthday. And so I say that to say, Jonathan Haidt touched on this. It's a supercomputer. They have access to everything. There's so much to know, and we don't have a whole lot of limitations or levels that they have to achieve to have access to it anymore. They don't have to earn anything anymore. It's all in their pocket. Why would I want to play kick the can when I can learn everything I ever wanted to know about my favorite wrestler? Instead of watching my favorite wrestler and then joining a wrestling team or getting lessons to become a wrestler, I can just watch and I can just read and I can just live vicariously through my favorite wrestler from the comfort of my couch as I eat snacks and junk food and fill my belly up and get unhealthy, which reduces my physical activity, which lowers my quality of life. So yes, there is causation, but there is absolutely direct correlation. And I think both are working against the family. That's my point. Is the correlation is there. And yes, there's a lot more that goes into it. Like I said, the lack of legislation protecting kids is doing more harm because parents don't have anything to lean into to hold these apps accountable. I also saw where, Jonathan Haidt made the comment, boys should be outside playing and having fun, and they're only on their computers and they're socializing through electronics. He's absolutely right that boys and girls should be outside playing and getting activity and having fun. And instead, the form of fun that they have now is different. And like I said, society has made it to where parents cannot keep up. And we've got to do something. Oh, wow. Okay, comments are rolling in. I'm sorry, y'all. Hi, Karen Warner. Karen Warner says, I had my son watching The Cosby Show and Fresh Prince. They had the best message and content. They had the opening scenarios and the positive closing with a lesson to learn from the issue. My son loved it. Okay, I'm so glad you brought that up because it's not the topic, but it definitely aligns. Even the content that's directed for kids, that's safe for fun and safe for adults, but safe for children and entertaining to children. Family TV is what we have. Abbott Elementary. We lost Modern Family. We lost all those TV shows because networks aren't investing in them. It's all adult. It's all centered around adults now. And even though Fresh Prince was mostly adults, it was still safe for kids. And even the jokes that might have been a little bit over the kid's head, a little bit inappropriate, were way over the kid's head. And they were done tactfully. That's no longer the case. And so that's also a contributor to the problem. Like you said, Karen Warner, there's just no kids. They're family television other than like Abbott Elementary. Family television is kind of some of the ways of old. And it's sad because I do remember sitting around the TV with my parents and with my grandparents and my aunts and uncles watching Fresh Prince. Martin was a little bit more adult, but when I got older, I was watching Martin and Cosby Show. One of my favorite shows was The Parkers because they were in college, A Different World. Like I was just telling my mama, one of my favorite shows growing up was What's Happening. They used to play on Nick at Night, and I loved What's Happening. Rerun would come in and say, "What's happening?" Like, I loved What's Happening and What's Happening Now. There's so many shows that we enjoyed, and we didn't need no dramatic storyline and no any of that stuff. We didn't need all of that. We had a good message, a positive message that was based in morals and being a good and decent human being that asked us to question ourselves when we were coming to a crossroads and gave us guiding light. We don't have those shows anymore. I remember watching Any Day Now and learning so much, because Any Day Now used to reference like historical events during the civil rights movement, but it was a good show in modern times. But it was about two adults who grew up during civil rights, and they had a friendship. They were best friends. One was white, one was black. And it was difficult for them during the civil rights movement. And that show taught me so much about different events in history. And afterwards, I would ask my mom or my grandma or whoever I was around, like, can we go to the library tomorrow? I want to look this up. And I learned so much about different events and encounters that pushed the civil rights movement forward because of the content I was watching. I'm learning and teaching myself and learning and researching as part of my entertainment. We have lost that wishbone. Like, we have really lost a lot of that really good entertainment that was nurturing and entertaining. Oh, Veronica Quick. So yes, Sharion, I lived off of those shows. I loved all of those shows. 227, The Jefferson, Sanford and Son. Yes. Okay, I know I'm about to binge one of these. Yes, we used to have a ton of fun. And the content was good. I mean, I remember one time my granddaddy let me watch The Three Stooges, and my grandmama had a fit. She was like, she don't need to see all that head banging and eye poking. She was so mad, and he was like, she like it. It's all right. I remember when I got old enough, I used to want to stay up late at my granddaddy's house. I wanted to stay up late and hang out with him. This is my granddaddy right here, y'all. Let me see. He passed away last month. And so I'm still in grieving or in mourning, but sharing a story about him will help. I remember I just thought he was the coolest person in the world, because he was just a man that kind of kept his own counsel. He really didn't talk a lot to people. He was very warm and receptive, but he just kind of minded his business, really. And I just thought he was so cool because he was always just in his chair, just chilling if he wasn't at work. And so I asked him, can I stay up late with you and watch your shows? And he was like, no, these are adult shows. You can't watch them. Well, finally, I think it was like 4 or 5 summers went by, and I had gotten a little older, and I was like, Granddaddy, can I finally watch one of your shows with you? And he was like, yeah, you can watch one. First of all, he had me watching MASH. So it was the biggest scam in history. And then secondly, one night he finally let me watch Walker, Texas Ranger. And when I tell you I was hooked, and that was our program, as he said, he'd be like, come on, Nip, get your bowl of cereal, come watch your program. And we would watch our program. Not program, not show, not TV series, program. And Walker, Texas Ranger kind of had some adult themes too, because he's solving, he's fighting crime and solving mysteries and stuff. But he would be whooping ass, and I would be right there with my granddaddy watching, and I'd be like, wow. And that's where I learned the power of Chuck Norris. But aside from that, yeah, like we had kids safe television, and even the adult television was appropriate to be viewed by kids. But I sure did. I love me some Walker, Texas Ranger. Up until he passed away. Whenever I missed him and he wasn't available on the phone because he worked a lot. He was a pastor, and he preached all the way up until 2 Sundays before he passed away. He was always working. So when I couldn't reach him on the phone, if I missed him, I would put on an episode of Walker, Texas Ranger and have that playing in the background. And it just made me feel close. So like even that is like an appropriate show, but it was an adult show. And he made such a deal out of it and was like, I don't know if you should watch that. That's kind of grown, Nip. And I was like, what is he watching? It made me want to watch it even more. And when he hit me with that episode of MASH, I almost walked back to Dallas. Mind you, my granddad lived in Mount Pleasant. I almost walked 2 hours back to Dallas, which would have been about a day of walking for my little legs. I was hot as fish grease. I said, I cannot believe he's watching this boring stuff. My dad used to watch, I can't remember the name of it. It's the ones, Mayberry, the little people in Mayberry. He used to watch all that. Anyway. Thank you, Mina Ruth. I appreciate that. Yes, it's been difficult, but we will get through. We will definitely get through. But he was a wonderful, wonderful person. Anyway, yeah. our content has changed significantly. We have way too much access to some of the worst parts of the world, not parts as in region, but just like the worst things that could occur in this life. And we have access to all of it, and it's intertwined into our entertainment. So in keeping kids safe, hell, most of us as adults need to be keeping our psyches safe. I be watching stuff and I'm like, this is too much for me right now. I can't watch this, and I'll turn it off. Oh my gosh, I love that y'all are putting your favorite shows in here. Please do. Before I start reading them, thank you so much, TCC Son, for the super message. Is it super message? What is it called? Anyway, my brain is just not on. She said, TCC Son says, I raised my ladies from the good old shows. Yes, you have to. You have to. There's so much entertainment out there, and the kids just don't have access. We don't even really have Nick at Night anymore where they can watch things that came before their time. We should. Hi, Legs. Legs says, Tailspin, Darkwing Duck. Yes, DuckTales, Doug, and good. Oh my, see, me and you can have a TV party because you are right there with me. I love me some Good Times now. I love me some good. Now, I'm going to tell you this. Florida Evans wanted to keep them in poverty, and I did not like some of the moves she made, but boy, was she a good mom. She tried her best. Y'all remember on Good Times when the neighbor was eating dog food, or they thought the neighbor was eating? Anyway, I could do this all day. Thank you for sharing that. Oh, thank you so much, Leola Brown. My thoughts and prayers to you and your family, Sharion. Thank you so much. I appreciate that so much. You don't even know. Thank you so much for everything. Let's see. Oh my gosh. I'm getting... Yes. Hi, Dara Edgehill. Dara Edgehill says, hi, all the on Cozy Star. Me get catchy TV channels and Peacock. I think you had some technological issues. But yes, Peacock has a lot of those same shows, and so does Hulu. Hulu and Disney Plus have Golden Girls. But absolutely. Oh, Lakiva 1000. I saw your comment as soon as I scroll past. I love the Golden Girls. Oh, Golden Girls is so good. To this day, it aged like fine wine. Some of the jokes are a little, but it was a different time. But because it was a different time, makes the way that it has aged in 2024 that much more astounding. Because what do you mean they were progressive in the 80s and they were saying things that would define you as progressive now, which is insane. Excellent writing, portrayed by excellent actresses. Amazing, amazing show. Have y'all ever, I watch the Golden Girls every day. Every single day I watch the Golden Girls. Have y'all seen or heard of the podcast, a Golden Girls Deep Dive podcast? It's everywhere podcasts are offered. I'm not on it or anything, but I listen to them every Monday. I listen to their new episode because they take one episode at a time and they dissect the Golden Girls episode and they deep dive. So they tell you all about the actors in it, even the guest stars. They tell you about the writers, and they were just interviewing some of the writers from the Golden Girls. It's such a good podcast. They also have a TikTok, so I recommend people listen to it. Dara Edgehill says, I was watching Martin yesterday. Martin is good. Martin is so good and funny. There was a whole bunch of people online tweeting him saying that they didn't think his show was funny. And it was, what they say? It was inflated. People were just gassing him up or something. And I'm like, you new kids, y'all should not have access to our legends. Because no, that show is so good. Veronica Quick said, yes, I remember the episode of On Good Times with the dog food. That really stuck with me because I never looked at dog food the same again because I didn't know it was edible for humans. But I'm going to tell you this. I used to feed my dog Alpo. And that smell is distinctive. No matter what you feed your dog, you know how Alpo smells specifically. And I used to feed my dog Alpo wet food when he got sick. And years after this dog had passed away, I mean, it was 20 years. I had this dog when I was 9 years old. So I was about 29, 30, and I was in Carrollton, and I ordered some pasta with meatballs. And I always cut my meatballs to see what the inside looked like. I like to see bell pepper and onion and garlic. I like to see the little chunks. What all did you put in my meatball? And so I cut the meatball open, and it was smooth as hell. And I said, this is a smooth meatball. And I picked it up, and I just looked at it, and the smell of Alpo hit me. I kid you not. I called. And I said, is this Alpo? And the waiter or the person who answered was like, absolutely not, blah, blah, blah. I said, let me talk to the manager on shift right now. Because it was concerning me. The manager was like, absolutely, it's not Alpo. So my petty self went to the dollar store, which was 2 corners down from my house, and on the way to the restaurant, I went and got a little can of Alpo. I cut it open to see if I was crazy, and it was identical. And I took it to the manager. I took photos, and I sent them to the owner online in an email. I not only got my food for free, which I did, I wanted the money back, but I certainly didn't want them vouchers they gave me for more meals. But I kid you not, a couple of months later, that restaurant was shut down because I reported it to everybody I knew. I said, listen, you know, if you're going to be serving Alpo and doggy safe dishes, they need to be doggy marked. That restaurant went out of business. And I low-key felt a little bad because I was like, I don't want to put nobody out of business, but you absolutely can't be deceiving the public. And all I wanted was a little glimpse of the bell pepper. And I ended up solving a crime, I guess. But I was just like, oh my gosh, this is Alpo. And you hit the smell. And so after that, I watched I rewatched Good Times a couple of years later. And I remembered that. And I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. That stuck out to me. But sure did. Hi, Karen Warner. Karen Warner says our comedy shows used to come on Saturday night. I am not leaving until after 11 p.m. when it is all done. And I had a good laugh. Then I was ready for a good time at the party. I would dance all night. Now that sounds like the perfect night. It sounds like you were living a happy life. You was getting it, getting you some good laughs, dancing, having some good fun. You was probably getting some good drinks and eats. It sounds like you were out and about having a good time. Oh my God. Hi, Mina Ruth 2093. Mina Ruth 2093 says Barney and Friends, Arthur, Sesame Street, Wishbone. Oh yeah. Reading Rainbow. Whenever I would stay with my grandmama, she would always make me watch Reading Rainbow and then ask me about what was read on Reading Rainbow to make sure I was paying attention. And I love that show so much. And Butterfly in the Sky. Let me stop. Other childhood shows that I love to watch. I used to love so much. Yes, I agree. You named some really good ones. Hi, Joan Garcia. Joan Garcia says, Sharion, good on you. Thank you. Legs says, do people remember In Living Color? Yes, you can do what you want. Like, don't get me started. I have the DVD set. That's one of the best shows ever. Who was your favorite character on that? Because I loved a lot. What is his name? It's not Lieutenant Dan. The Fire Marshal Bill, that, you know, the Jim Carrey character. I also love the one that he would play with the little ponytails, the little woman. I also loved Kim Wayans. What you say? That's the word, but you ain't heard it from me. I loved her with the rollers and Little Magic. Oh my God, Living Single and Living Color was so good. It was so freaking funny. Yasmina Ruth says, I'm a 90s baby and Martin was my show along with Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. We all have that like loyalty to them. Do you watch the new Bel-Air? What do you think of that? John Garcia said, yes, homie, don't play that. Yes, he was one of my favorite characters. Oh my gosh. Yes. Jamie Foxx, he was Wanza with the lip. Okay, we have gone off y'all. We haven't even been nowhere near the topic for a very long time. I have had fun cutting up with y'all. Thank y'all for bringing me a laugh. I'm so glad. I'm so glad we did this live stream. I appreciate it. Yes, we had such a good time back then. We had so much good content, and now kids don't have much. Like even just now, so many of these shows were generation specific when they aired, but all the generations are aware of them and got to enjoy them because actual networks promoted good TV. I was watching like What's Happening came out when my dad and my mom were kids, and I was watching it religiously. Taxi, The Nanny, Laverne and Shirley. Oh my goodness, you know we can do this. The Brady Bunch. The Brady Bunch was so good. Still to this day, one of my faves. Yes. Oh, hey, Veronica Quick. Veronica Quick says, there's a new cartoon I watch called Molly of Denali. That's a cute name, too. The character is out of Alaska, and I'm learning so much about Native Americans and some of the things First Nations with the Invictus game. Oh my gosh, it's called Molly of Denali. I'm about to write that right now. Hold on. Thank you so much, Veronica Quick. Molly Denali. Okay, I'm gonna check that out. Thank you. I love shows like that, and if they're educational and entertaining, I'll definitely share them with my nieces and nephews too. All right, y'all. We have chatted all day. I'm sure y'all have other live streamers to get to, so I'm not going to hold you. Thank you so much for watching. Again, I said we had a lot of topics we were going to get to, but the updates recently pushed them down the pipeline. So we're going to have a part 2 to this live stream on Monday, where I not only go over those topics, but we're also going to review the Archwell Foundation Insight Report, and we're going to talk about a couple of other things that we didn't get to today. I hope y'all have an amazing weekend. All the segments from these live streams will, after the live stream airs for about a day or two, I'm going to post as individual videos in case you want to revisit, but you don't want to click through the live stream. We're going to be posting these segments as individual videos, but make it a little bit nicer. And on the way out, I want to share one more comment from Legs. It says, let's not forget, I Love Lucy, the GOATs. I Love Lucy. They used to air her show and the Three Stooges early in the morning when people were asleep when I grew up in Chicago. Yes, I Love Lucy. I still love I Love Lucy. I actually have I Love Lucy, the Vitamita Vegemin doll, and I took it out the box, so it's probably not worth anything, but I wanted to play with it early, and I liked her curly red hair. But my grandma bought me the Vitamita Vegemin doll, my grandmama Lula. So she's probably watching now. Hey, grandmama Lula. But anyway, yes, I Love Lucy was so good. And I'm so glad y'all had fun. Thank you, Joan Garcia, SharionSade. This was so much fun. Thank you so much. I hope y'all have a great weekend. I will see y'all next time. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I will see y'all next time. Bye. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the SharionSade podcast.